Yeah, I think it's important that the athletes and the influencers we partner with have their own existing loyal following and database of their own. So as long as they're featuring our products and kind of pushing out similar messages in a consistent way, I think that helps increase your reach overall in an organic way. We're not paying for that. It's just people we're already partnering with, pushing it out their own channels as well.
Interesting. Do you ever, so you guys are paying them to do that as well, right?
So it's kind of like a case-by-case basis. Depends on who we're talking about. But obviously, any professional athletes that we're working with, there is a specific sports marketing contract that they are a part of. And then influencers, many of our influencers are just, Adidas is such a great brand and everyone loves it. So we have a lot of influencers who just love our brand and want to rep the latest gear from us. So it may not be a official contract and there may not be any payment in there. It may just be product deal.
So it could be sent like a rapper or something. Might have a really big following and say, hey, I want some swag. And then you say, hey, why don't you give us a tweet or something?
Yeah, and a lot of times, fortunately, with a big brand like Adidas, we may not even need to ask for that in return. But as like a new business or an up-and-coming business or company, it may be worth kind of identifying some key influencers and working on, small contracts to kind of initially start increasing your awareness.
It's kind of like a secret guerrilla way of getting people to promote your business. And there's we start to see this with bloggers where, I have a couple of friends who've got blogs that make, 100,000 hits a month. And so they get all these people sending them all this free stuff because they just want them to write about it. And so, this whole blogging thing has really put a lot of power in the hands of these stay-at-home moms or cool little high school athletes in this case that develop a following. So how has Adidas utilized relationships with company or with solo bloggers? How does that
Yeah, absolutely. Especially specifically within women's training, I really see the industry moving towards this athleisure space. You may have heard of this, but kind of that fusion of fashion with fitness. For the last 2 years, we've been closely partnering with bloggers and vloggers to give them access to our collection before it actually launches, let them see the entire collection, pick out their own outfits, style it their own way, and then show us how they use it. So wearing it to their Soul Cycle class, wearing it to Barry's boot camp, or maybe it's just their coffee run. And they can really show the versatility of our products, the fashion side of our products, the performance side of our products, and then again, it goes out to their loyal following who immediately engages with the content to say, hey, I love that sweatshirt, where did you get it? And it's a really authentic way to launch our products versus just kind of merely coming out on our own channels, leveraging influencers, bloggers, everyone like that.
Well, it's because of that whole self-promotion never works as well as seeing something that you like and getting a referral from a friend that you like and trust. And if you admire somebody and you see them wearing something, you're like, oh, I love that, I want that, versus just Adidas saying it's in. It seems like that they could be biased, whereas somebody who's going to be on a blog or something is going to be a little bit, maybe they're making the decision on whether or not they want to have it. So there is that sort of the gatekeeper is changing, right? So if we look at the media from 20 years ago, when the internet, or more than that now, where the internet wasn't prevalent and people didn't have that voice, that we had to go through traditional marketing channels like doing regular advertising or having to rely on normal media spots. So things are kind of changing that way, right?
Yeah, and I see a lot more of user-generated content being used for bigger brands. It's not just their own branded content, but as you said, really giving the power to the consumer and giving them an outlet to create content and make stories about your brand or your company.
That's so cool. So do you have any ways, if people are out there trying to become the blog that ends up getting the cool swag from Adidas, how do you do that? If I wanted You Can Brand to get some Adidas sponsored swag so that I could pole dance How do we make this happen aside from knowing somebody who works for the company?
Right? I don't know. Well, I know I can speak for women specifically. We put together a very long list of criteria of the types of bloggers and vloggers that we were looking for. So we want someone who has national influence. They may have a large social following in a particular platform, and so we may mix multiple influencers to make sure we're covering all of those platforms. And we want somebody who makes quality content, so really using a good camera and paying attention to your backgrounds and just how the product and yourself look in the images or the videos, as well as just generally being aspirational to the target market that we're going after. There's a long list of things too, so we could put you through the ringer and see if you meet all those criteria.
Is there any way you can send me some of that criteria? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Because I really want to see what it would take, because I think that, there's that perspective that would be it's just a great thing to have that for content reasons as a blogger. Yeah. But in addition, it's also just interesting to know what to shoot for. Like, how do you put yourself in an A-game sort of situation where you would get asked to do things like that? And so that would be really good. Like, for photo shoots, when you are doing them, so you're only doing digital, right? So, like, you're not really going in and working with, like, magazines or doing any of that stuff, are you?
Technically, my role is overseeing all of the creative development for women's training for the U.S. market. So when we go do our photo shoots with our athletes, we are capturing content that will be used in store. So if you go visit like a Dick's Sporting Goods or a Lady Foot Locker and you see the Adidas section of that store, any imagery and messaging there comes out of my team. And then, any above-the-line advertising, so print in magazines, TV commercials, digital media buys, all of that kind of comes out of our team. So yeah.
That's so cool. In thinking from a branding perspective, you probably have to constantly be thinking about the end user experience, right? So when you guys are going into your war rooms to figure out a strategy or whatever, do you do like mood boards, or do you like tap into the ideal client's mind by doing shadow boxes or writing stories about them? Like, how do you tap into the target's mind?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that we absolutely tackle every single day. I think on the brand marketing team, you have to be an expert in the target market that you're going after. So everything from research from our global research team to conducting our own focus groups around the nation consistently, not only asking for product feedback, but asking for feedback on some of our marketing materials and our approach. What type of women do they like to see in advertising? What types of messaging resonate with them? So we're constantly testing what we're creating and developing. And I mentioned earlier, all of the plans that we're working on start with that consumer insight. So you have to know your consumer to make sure your plan's going to work for them.
Okay, so interviewing is a really big part of that. And from a small business perspective, would you say it would be a good recommendation to try to find some exact examples of who you're trying to reach, sitting down and talking to them, using their language, using the information to develop products for them, and then really focus on maybe one target per product? Or like, how do you determine how many targets to go for?
That's a good question, and one that doesn't happen overnight, right? You've got to put a lot of thought into that. It needs to add up to an overall vision and mission for your brand, your company, or even down to that specific product launch. You may be making something for a different consumer than you're used to going after. For us, we have a pretty broad target, but really going after that young athletic female, anywhere from 16 to 24 is kind of like an age range I would put out there. And I would say, number one way to get to know that target is get in front of them, have those focus groups, ask them questions, do things that they do, spend a day in the life with them. So for us, with athletes, it's absolutely being at those sporting events and knowing what it's like to train to be on those types of teams and incorporating all of that.
Oh, that totally makes sense.